What's going on, y'all? Thanks for checking in the Khaliis Take. You know what to do. Hit that like, subscribe button. Also hit that notification bell just so you can get the newest and the bonus content first. But hey, let's just go ahead and jump right in. You know, the Clippers are probably going to have a lot of offers on the table this offseason. They have to ask themselves what deal or what situation makes sense for them the most. And, you know, we're hearing reports about the Washington Wizards also might, be trying to deal Bradley Beal. And, one of the stories on Sports Illustrated is would he fit with the Clippers and what the Clippers would have to give up to get him? And that's a possible landing spot, for Bradley Beal if the deal was ever made. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't know if Bradley Beal deal would ever go through. I think this one is super highly unlikely because I personally think, can the Clippers use him? Yeah, the Clippers can definitely use Bradley Beal. He's a, he's a good player. He's a star player in the league, all-star player, and he's a deadly shooter. He can score, and he plays on defense too. So, he plays defense too. So, you got to give him a little bit of credit there as well. So he's definitely a player that can help a team win, I think. I just think he needs to be the second or third best player on a team, which he definitely would be with the Clippers. And I feel like, he could fit with the Clippers if he was actually acquired. But my thing is what I always say. And I know you see all these sites and all these reports and all these things out there about, certain players certain players wanting to leave their situation, go into another one. And the Clippers are just an open target for a lot of players because I think a lot of players look at the Clippers as a scary team and a contender type team going into next season based upon what you've seen from them so far in regards to the trades they made for Norman Powell and Robert Covington. And then on top of that, you see what I'm saying? Like the Kawhi Leonard and PG and the rest of the crew and Ty Lue, their coach, and their culture is really good too. So a lot of players wouldn't mind playing for the Clippers, I think, especially, with Kawhi and PG being there since they're very liked, or especially, PG liked a little bit more than Kawhi probably since Kawhi doesn't talk that much. I don't think nobody dislikes Kawhi Leonard. I just think they don't know how to take Kawhi Leonard. So I'll say that. But in all essence, as I said before, of course, it'd be a good fit to have Bradley Beal there with, Kawhi and PG. That would make them even more of a deadlier team than what they are. But as I said before in many of my videos that I've stated, how much do you have to give up to get a player like Bradley Beal? Let's be realistic. They would probably have to give up Luke Kennard, Terrence Mann, and maybe even Norman Powell. And actually, now that I think about it, in reading some of the sites and things like that about this situation here and how it's looming once again, I've heard this before about Bradley Beal going to the Clippers. This isn't the first time I've heard this rumor being out there. Actually, Norman Powell was one of the names they actually put on some of those sites as far as who the Clippers, possibly would, utilize in the trade, and maybe a first round pick or second round pick or something like that as well. But at the same time, they just got Norman Powell. So I don't really see no need to get rid of him. I would keep what you have. Norman Powell's really good. Now, if they think Norman Powell's going to be injury prone or something like that, then of course, make the deal. But I think Norman Powell will be fine. I think he's a good fit with the Clippers. I think him and Robert Covington came in and they serve well for the Clippers, and they definitely could serve well for them going forward. And I think I like that. I personally would rather have them, keep Norman Powell and the crew that they have, because if you get rid of like a Luke Kennard or Terrence Mann or Norman Powell or like a Robert Covington or like a Nicholas Batum or somebody like that, you're losing that core structure of your team. You're losing those guys, those other guys who do things that some other guys in the NBA don't do. Nicholas Batum can guard position 1 through 5. He's not as mobile as he used to be, but he still can defend pretty well at his age, and he's a knockdown shooter. Norman Powell, same way. He's a knockdown shooter. He can defend on the other end, and he's a scorer. Robert Covington, he can defend position 1 through 5. He can score. You see what I'm saying? Then you got a young Luke Kennard, who's probably one of the best 3-point shooters in the league, and who's ascending as a player more and more. Especially got a little bit more attention this year, the fact that Kawhi and PG was out, and he actually held it down a lot when there were games where Reggie Jackson wasn't playing well. So I mean, he's a very vital piece coming off the bench that gives them an extra dynamic in scoring and from the 3-point range. range. So, and he's very underrated putting the ball on the floor. And Terrence Mann is their definitely young, athletic, hardcore, raw, skilled player who goes out there and gives it all he got on both ends of the floor as well and has a lot of promise. So, you're giving up a lot of young talent for Bradley Beal, who has never won anything. He is a good player. He does have a lot of good qualities about him, but can he really help you win? I think he could, but I'm not exactly 100% sure because I haven't seen him win in his situation, even though being on the Wizards is definitely not a good example because they're just trash. But of course, Bradley Beal would make the Clippers a threat to win a championship. But at the same time, you would get a lot from him, but you'd be losing a lot more in players that you help develop become the way they are now that can really help you win a championship because they understand the culture, they understand the chemistry, they understand the grind and everything, and the experience these players have had due to the fact that Kawhi Leonard and PG was out, all this time with a lot of time on their hands to get experience. You're taking away some youth on your team that could be the future of your team, even after maybe Kawhi and PG is not there. So I just don't think that's a smart move. I don't think it's the best move for the Clippers to make. I like Bradley Beal. It's a really good pick. It looks like a sexy pick all day long because his, the name, who he is, and what he could bring to the Clippers. But it's not a sexy pick in all essence if you look at the totality because it's an attractive pick, but it's not worth going after because you're losing a lot more than you're gaining, I feel like. And like I said, Bradley Beal, what if he gets injured or something like that? Now you trade away 3-4 players for one guy who gets injured at the unopportune time, and now you're back in the same situation you were in this year with injuries and a player with a decent name or household name in the NBA, but not on the floor showing availability or being available for you to help you win. So it's like, it's a lot goes into that. I personally think they need to stick to where they are. I like Bradley Beal. It's definitely an attractive thought, but at the same time, I rather keep what the Clippers have because what they have is good young core players who understand the process, who is learning situational basketball, and who's getting a lot of experience due to the fact their stars are out, and they made a really, really good push this season, making it to the play-in tournament. So you got to give them credit for what they done. You got to give them credit for what they accomplished. And nobody thought they would even accomplish that much because, without Kawhi and PG being out more than half of the season as well, you didn't think they would make that far. At least a lot of the analysts didn't think they would make it that far. And the Clippers found a way to be relevant and a lot better than their neighbor team, than the Lakers, with a lot less talent. And they beat the Lakers 4 times without their superstars. So, when you look at the Clippers in its entirety, they're already a stacked team. I don't really think they need to go after somebody like a Bradley Beal. And of course, like I said, it's a pick that a lot of people would, fantasize of having like a player like him on your team because it'll make the Clippers really have like a big 3. And I understand that. And that definitely will better their chances in, winning and stuff like that. But the way injuries happen in the NBA now, more so than I've ever seen in my life, you can't really count on anything. I mean, look at the Nets. They had a big 3 last year, and James Harden come up lame with a hamstring injury, and then Kyrie went down with a crucial ankle injury. You see what I'm saying? Like, a lot can happen. The big 3 thing doesn't matter anymore because it seems like can't nobody stay healthy enough to make it through a season, to go into a postseason and a playoff to make a run. So, I mean, it really doesn't matter about that too much anymore if you ask me. It just matters about a team having chemistry and camaraderie and, 1 or 2 superstars or 2 stars on a team, and the rest role players just play their role to perfection and try to make a run that way. And that's just pretty much the way it's probably going to go. You see what I'm saying? So I probably wouldn't even really bid on the Bradley Beal situation, not unless it was hypothetically a situation where the Clippers really didn't have to give up much to get him. But of course, that's probably not going to be the case if they ever did try to make a deal because, Bradley Beal is a pretty decent name in the NBA. You know what I'm saying? So he's going to, his contract is huge and, a lot comes with that. So I definitely understand, his frustration of being in Washington and not having much to to really gloat about there. But at the same time, I don't know. I find it far-fetched at this point for the Clippers to land somebody like him with his big contract and having to give up so much to probably get him. It really just wouldn't be worth it to me in the long run. That's just my opinion. I don't know what the Clippers are going to do, of course, but we'll have to just see how it pans out. But I personally would just stick with what they have. I mean, I like Bradley Beal. I do. I think he's a good player. I think he's a really solid player at that. I think he's a star player, definitely an all-star player. But at the same time, is he really worth going after for the Clippers in the offseason based upon all that they have? I personally think it's more or less speculation than anything else. And I think that's where the Clippers are going to leave it at too, as just speculation. I don't think they're going to go after Bradley Beal not unless, he just basically falls in their lap where they don't have to really give up nothing. But of course, as I said, I don't see that happening. So I would just kind of like let this one go in the wind and just kind of, look towards other options they have in regards to bettering their team. But of course, it's the NBA. I don't want to rule anything out. Anything can happen in the NBA. That's for sure. I've seen trades happen where I thought there was no way possible and they did happen. So, we don't want to rule out anything. But at the same time, I just don't think that the Clippers really need to make this move for him. I think they have a good enough squad the way they are, maybe with the exception of, maybe swapping a player out here and there, maybe a Marcus Morris. Some people may think a Zubac or something like that. Maybe get a piece, maybe an extra big man, to kind of fill a role there. I mean, that's pretty much it, because everything else is pretty much set, locked in, and they got all the players they need to make a run, for this thing next year. And the chemistry that they have as a team and the things they've went through as far as injuries and the disappointments and things like that, they're a really tight group if you ask me. So, what I'm saying, I would keep the chemistry in-house the way it is. Don't look elsewhere and just keep on what you have, because I think what you have is good enough to contend for a championship. But hey, that's my take on everything. You leave in the comments in the comment section as always. And hey, Khaliis out.